Today we're going to go through Docusign, obviously. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay, so you should all be seeing my screen now. And so we're going to go through this like from beginning to end. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the Docusign study guide. So this has been emailed out to you guys, and I also put the link to it in each of those daily emails that you're receiving right now. So this study guide has a lot of resources. So depending on what kind of learner you are, there are some PDFs, and then there's also a lot of videos. So I'll just kind of mention these Docusign overview resources here. So these are kind of other videos from other people that go through from start to finish. But then you'll also notice there's 2 PDF documents here. Both of these are amazing. And they just go through with like screenshots and like written instructions. So if that's more your style, those are there for you as well. And then there's also shorter videos that just kind of break up step by step. So you're not always going to want to try to find, you know, the 2-minute section of an hour-long video. So in those cases, they're kind of broken down there for you. So if you haven't yet dove into this study guide, I would highly recommend it. And feel free to email me if you don't have access to this or you haven't seen it in your email. All right, so we're going to start in command. So agent.kw. Okay, so everything that I do is going to be under Joanne's account because I'm not an agent. So first thing is we're going to go up to the top right and we're going to go to our settings and we're just going to check to make sure our Docusign account is connected. Okay, and here you go. So you can see here that Joanne's Docusign account is connected to her command because it says connected right here. So that's one way that you want to just make sure that your Docusign account is connected. There are instructions on how to connect your account on that study guide. For the purposes of this class and timing wise, we're not going to have time to go over that. But in order for you to use Docusign, it has to be connected with command. And the reason for that is because you always start in command anyway. So that being said, we'll go to opportunities on the left side. And we're going to start an opportunity. So this is why I said you should have at least one contact, because if you're familiar with command, you know that you can't start an opportunity without a contact link to it. So I'm going to go to the right side. I'm going to create an opportunity. I need to fill out all of the starred portions. So I'm going to do a buyer. And my client, me and my husband are watching Ozark right now. So my client that I set up is Wendy Bird. She is fake. And then I'm just going to add this just so that Joanne knows this is a test. If you wanted to put a co-buyer in from your contacts, you could, and Docusign will take their information into your Docusign room. So every day Docusign integrates with command a little bit more, and the information that you put into command will immediately be synced into your Docusign room, which is really nice. So it's going to pull our client information, Joanne's information, and then if we did put a co-buyer, it would pull their information as well. The only other thing that's required is the commission rate, which I can always change later. So I'll create. And then I am here in my detail section of my opportunity. Okay, so in the detail section, we can change. This is where we would change the name. Remember, it needs to be named as the address. Since this is a buyer, I wouldn't know that until I went into contract. So you have that, and then you could change your property details here. Okay. But in order to sync to Docusign, we're going to go to Documents. Okay, and then I just need to choose. So here is kind of what you're used to, right? Residential. So you have all the documents here for under contract and closed that are required. So an important distinction is Docusign and Command, right? So you'll notice that we're in the documents of Command right now, and then as soon as we go into Docusign, we're going to be in the documents of Docusign. So two different documents or two different sections of two different systems are both called documents. So your document section in Command, which is where we are now, is how I communicate with my Market Center for compliance. Okay. The document section of Docusign is how I communicate with my clients and get signatures. So the Market Center doesn't see what's in Docusign. We only see what's in Command. Okay, so we'll talk about that more towards the end of the class, but that's important. So when you're in your documents, this is how you're going to create a room, which a room in Docusign is like a loop in .loop, right? So a room and a loop is the same thing. So we're going to create our room through Command, and we're going to do so at the right-hand side here where it says Start a Transaction. So I'm going to click this drop down. Right now, because Joanne has both .loop and Docusign connected to her Command, she has the option. Okay. Now for each opportunity, it's going to give you the option to choose between Docusign and .loop. You can only make this decision one time per opportunity. So you want to be careful. If you have decided that you're still using .loop for now, you want to make sure you click .loop. If you're ready to make the transition to Docusign, you're going to click Docusign. But once you pick a path, that's it. So make sure you're careful there. The only way to undo that is to lose the opportunity and start from scratch. So obviously for this course, we are going to choose Docusign. And it's going to load. So it will try to like open up a Docusign tab right away. I have my pop-up blocker on, so it doesn't pop up, and I keep forgetting to turn it off for the class. So if that happens, it's no big deal. You're going to use this Go to Transaction button at the right-hand side to take you into .loop. You always want, or sorry, Docusign. You always want to enter into Docusign through Command. Okay, you can enter it through like Docusign, but it is best to enter through Command to make sure that your information is syncing. So we will go to our transaction, and that is going to open up a separate tab. Oh, is it blocking me? It just keeps blocking it. There we go. So make sure your pop-up blocker is not enabled. So now I'm going to log into Docusign. So I've found that Docusign will make you log in at least once every day. So, and then it'll remember you for a while. So you may have to log in. So it's important to keep your password either saved or in your brain. So here we are. So this is Docusign, right? So it's going to open you directly into the document section, okay? But for now, I'm going to ask that when you start your room, you should go over to the details side, which is just one to the left of documents. So as Command and Docusign get more and more connected, this detail section of Docusign is going to be connecting with your Command and pulling the information that you enter into Command over into details. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So you'll notice the name of the room is exactly the name of whatever you named your opportunity in Command. So it pulled that for me. And also pulled my side for me. I'm the buy side right now. It is going to pull, like I said earlier, my client information and my own information. So I'm going to press this edit button here to show you how you can edit things. And we're going to start by looking at this right side column. Okay, so every time it's going to start with the seller's contact information, but this is a buyer, right? So we don't know them yet, right? When you do know them, you could put their information in there and it'll autofill some of your forms for you. And as you scroll down, you'll get seller 2, the listing agent, another listing agent, and now here's my buyers. So I have Wendy Bird, right? And it pulled her cell phone and her email from the contact that I put into command, right? And then buyer 2, I could have done a co-buyer in command, but I didn't do that. So I'm going to take a second and I'm going to put her husband, who is Marty Bird. And I'm going to use my own personal email address so that I'm not sending emails to someone random. And then the buyer agent is me, Joanne, right? And it pulled all of her information, which is just from her profile in command. And then if I wanted, I could add another agent here, right? So I can save that. And so it's important that you add your client's information into the details section of Docusign. It's important that you make sure that it's there because that's going to really help us when we're sending forms. You'll also notice that there's a lot of other information. So I would make it a habit to be updating the details section of your Docusign as you find information. So, or as information becomes known based on your transaction. So for example, the location, this is a buyer. So as soon as I went under contract, I would be able to add in all of that information. That way it starts auto-filling into things, into forms. And you have like earnest money, you have the contract date, you know, the closing date. So that's the type of stuff that will start getting pulled in to forms automatically. And so as you know that information, you want to add it to the details section so that it saves you some time on the back end. Okay.
Hey, I'm sorry. How do I type in those sections?
You have to press this edit button at the top right, and then you'll be able to type. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, y'all feel free to just jump in with questions. There's only 6 of you, so like just unmute yourself. I don't really care. When I have classes of like 30, it's a little bit harder, but this is a small enough group. So
on the client contact information, you said to fill it in to help like auto-populate documents. How much information do we have to put in? Just an email?
So I would for sure do email because that's how you're going to send the forms.
Right.
And then just name, and I would say that would be the only thing that should be required. Anything else is just going to start auto-populating for you if it needs to go into a form. So I would probably say that if you did name and email for everybody, that would be plenty sufficient.
Okay, thanks.
But yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so that's the details section. So that's like the first thing. So we're going to go to documents. Now there is this people section, which you could add your clients in there. But from the classes that I've taken, Docusign sends like an automated email to people when they're added, and people or agents have just said that can be a little confusing for their clients to get an email from Docusign that's not asking them to sign anything. So most people just disregard that. So that's just a little trick. So we'll go to the document section now. This is obviously like the part that you'll spend the most time in documents and envelopes. So on the left-hand side or right-hand side, you have this add button. So we're going to talk mostly about computer forms and Docusign forms. There's a difference between those. So computer forms are going to be like PDFs that you are and documents that you already have saved to your computer, and you're going to upload into Docusign. Docusign forms are the ones that have already been formatted by Docusign to be fillable and interactive, right? So we're going to start with Docusign forms, but we are going to go back to the computer forms as well. So when I click Add Docusign Forms, I get to this page that says Add Docusign Forms. If you are following along, or if you do this later, you may want to just make a note that there's a chance that for your first time, you will get asked for your NERDS number. You can skip that page. There's like an option to skip it. You might also be asked to select a forms provider. And in that case, you'll have the option to say continue to company forms without validation. And I can show you guys that screen here. So you should be seeing like a screenshot that I've taken. So there's a chance you see this where you can choose a forms provider, but we don't want either of these. So you would just continue to company forms. So that's the two different screens I've found people might see. And then after that, like every time you go to that, you'll come to this here. So the Docusign Forms library, if you left it there, you would then be able to choose from all of these different forms here. But what you might want to prefer to do is, instead of being in the library on this first option, toggle down to group. And then when you select your groups, you'll find that we've made a buyer packet and a listing packet. So then this is a buyer, so I could choose buyer. And then I would be able to either select all by clicking this button or going through and just clicking the ones that I need. So I am going to grab the team disclosure and I'll add that. Now at this point, we're still missing just a couple forms, and they will be in either through Docusign or by the Market Center just making a template for it by May 15th for everybody. But you will notice that there are a couple forms that are missing, and I don't remember them off the top of my head, but so here it is, my document. You'll notice this icon here, the blue form. That's just letting me know that someone just threw something at the window while I was teaching on purpose, so that was fun. I'm in the office, if you can't tell. This is Kim's office. So that blue form here, that's just letting you know that this document is a Docusign form, meaning it's interactive. So the team disclosure is something that I would need to edit. So if I click on the document, it's gonna come up. And I'll actually be able to edit this, right? So I can click into the boxes, you know, and I can type, I can press tab to move to the next field, right? And then, you know, I'm not gonna like type everybody, but that's part of our leadership team, right? One thing about Docusign when it comes to these, the radios where you pick and choose something, you have to be careful. In this instance, I need to choose one of them, right? So I would choose the buyer, but say it was like a optional field, you'll notice that I can't unclick it. I'm like clicking it. I can switch it, but I can't unclick it. So you just want to be careful with those. And then if I'm editing a document, it's important that I save it clearly. If I just X out of there, then it's not gonna, when I send it to my client, the info won't be on there. Okay. Now, to send something to your clients is to DocuSign a document, right? And so you can hover over it and click in this little circle and all of these actions pop up. The DocuSign one is the pen icon every time. And so that's how you send it to somebody to be signed. So we'll go through that now. So when I click that, it opens an envelope. So the envelope is the next like new word. So an envelope in DocuSign you can think of exactly like an actual physical envelope. So I've prepared my forms and now I'm going to stuff them in the envelope, and that envelope is the way that it gets sent out to my clients. Just like I would put an envelope in the mail and that envelope carries it to wherever I want it to go. And so you can do a lot in this page, and this is where you'll do like the most work on your documents. So the envelope name, it always is going to be please DocuSign. Depending on your own personal workflow, you would maybe want to change it. Maybe I'll call it the team disclosure because that's what's in it. Because I'll show you later, all of your envelopes will be together in one screen. And if they all just say, please DocuSign, it might be hard to tell what's what. So here's my document, the team disclosure. If I had chosen to send multiple documents at once, which I can, I would be able to, in this row, change the order of them. And I'll show you, you click and you drag, and you could kind of put them in whatever order you wanted. So if for some reason you wanted a particular document to be at the top of the page, then when you send it to your clients, then that's how you would do that. Here, add recipients to the envelope. This is how you add whoever you want to sign your documents. So you would click add recipient, and you're gonna have these three options, okay? Pre-tagged roles is always the one that you wanna select whenever you're using a Docusign form, because when those forms were formatted, they were already said, like, this is the spot where the buyer signs. This is the spot where the seller signs. This is the spot where the broker signs. So you kind of want to, those are already put out for you. So you want to use pre-tagged roles when I'm using a blue Docusign form. If you used room participants, that's just going to give you the option to use anybody that's in that detail section. And then email address is physically like typing in somebody. So you may use the email address if you needed Lori to sign something, our broker. If you needed her to sign something, you might just use the email address option, because then you could just put her email in there. So I'll show you. We'll do pre-tagged roles. And the roles, right, are two signers, because this is a team disclosure, could be used for either side of the deal. This documents column is just telling me which document. So if I had more than one document in my envelope, you would see those stacked together there. And then this recipient is just where I'm going to match up whoever I want to be authorized signer 1. So I'll choose Wendy for authorized signer 1, and I'll choose Marty for authorized signer 2. And then I will add them. So your recipients, this is where you would customize this even further. So a couple of things. You have this column here that has numbers. They're both a number 1, which means that the minute that I press send, everybody's going to get this document at the same time. If for some reason I wanted Marty to sign it only after Wendy signed it, I could delete that 1 and make it a 2. And that means that when I press send, it'll automatically go to Wendy, but it's going to sit and wait in my outbox for Marty. And as soon as Wendy signs it, then it'll send it to Marty. So that's kind of cool. And so you could, for example, like the mutual release, right? If you wanted Lori to sign something, but you only wanted her to sign it after everybody else has, right? Because she has to wait, right? You could change her to a 2. And now she's going to not even see this until Wendy and Marty have signed it. So that's kind of nice. But I don't need her, so I'm going to delete her. I'm going to press an X right there. Here, you can change them from needs to sign to just needs to view, which is kind of cool. And on the more, you can add a private message or you can add a password. So if for some reason you had a client that was particularly nervous about online signing, you could offer them to set every document to have a password, and then they may feel a little bit more secure in that way. So you would just click that, and then you would put the password, but then you would need to tell them this password, right? Like they wouldn't know what it was. So I'm going to discard that because I don't want that. And then as you scroll down, this message here, this is what's actually going to be sent in the email. So again, they love this phrase, please DocuSign. That's automatically there every time. If you wanted to be more specific, you could put something. You could even put a message like, hi, call me with any questions. or whatever, really. And then that's what they're going to actually see in their inbox. Right? So that is all of the ways that you can customize the envelope. You can also add more documents if you have the option to select multiple in documents, which I'll show you later. But if for some reason you just forgot, or if you started to use templates, which is like next level, that's where you would add them here. So I'll go next in the top right. It takes a minute every time. I do believe this is just my own Wi-Fi. I don't think, sometimes it goes a lot faster. Here we go. So this is the team disclosure. Notice it has all the things that I typed in because I remembered to save. And it already has signatures, yellow and blue, right? They're color coded because they're for two different people. Up in the left, you see that Wendy has been assigned the yellow color. If I click that drop down, Marty is the blue color. So if you had 5 different people on this document, you'd have 5 different colors. And I don't know if there's a limit on colors, but so the yellow stuff, anytime I added something that was yellow, that's going to be sent to Wendy. If I added something that was blue, that would be sent to Marty. Okay? But since this was a Docusign form, the signature boxes are already put in there for me. So as soon as I just take a quick look at this and I say, okay, I feel good about it, I can send it to my clients. I can also preview it. So up at the top right, before I could send it, I could preview it, which is kind of nice if you just want to take a look at what they're seeing, or if, you know, just to help you answer questions for how Docusign works on the client end. Okay. And so you see, this is what it would look like. They press start, and then it takes them down to where to sign, and then they would click it. And then on the top, they also let you look at what it would look like on an iPad or a phone, which is just neat. It's not needed. You can X that out, and then I will send it. I do not think my laptop likes Kim's office. It has never gone this slow before on one of my classes.
It's been slow in the office today, Kayla.
Hi, Jamie. Okay, so you'll see now it's in your envelopes. Notice, remember, I changed it to team disclosure, so that's helpful, but again, your own personal preference. It's yellow and saying waiting for others. As soon as everybody signs it, it's going to turn into a green check mark. So that way you can visually see the status of all of your envelopes all at one glance. If I clicked on this envelope, I'm going to be able to resend it. If for some reason they're like, no, we never got it. You know how people are, spam folders and stuff. You can correct it. So like, say you saw something that was wrong, you could go in, you could change something, and you can send it again. And then it also breaks it down for you and tells you exactly who has signed it. So maybe it's still yellow in your envelope, but Wendy signed it and it's just Marty that hasn't signed it. And then you know exactly who you need to talk to. Okay. So that is the Docusign forms. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to the PDF portion? Okay.
No.
So let's go back to documents, and we are going to add in a PDF or a computer form. So I'm going to go to computer. And then This is probably why my computer's slow. So many. I'm going to add in an agency disclosure. This is in the Docusign forms, so I don't want you to think it's not in there, but I just is the one that I picked to kind of show. I will tell you that I have found that it doesn't always like my file. I think it's because I emailed it to myself. I'm not sure. Bear with me for a second. It's just trying to load it, but it's taking a second. Ooh, that looked good. I got impatient. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that just took a second. I don't really know why it takes a minute to load them. I got impatient and I put all of these duplicates in there. So something you may want to do is rename anything that you don't, if you see something like repeating, because you'll notice that when you go into command, if all of the names are very similar, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to know which is which. So to rename a document, you would click it. You would go up to the top right to document actions and you would choose rename. So I'm just gonna put no so that I know that it later. So that's an option, but I'm gonna remember that I like this one that says copy. So another way that you can DocuSign something is in this preview section. So you can go to that same document actions button up here, and you can go down to the pen, which is DocuSign. So that's just a separate way that you can do it. I don't know that either one is better than the other, but. Okay. So I'm not going to explain this as much this time since we have already talked about this page, but I'm making my envelope now. When I go to add recipients, we'll notice that there is no option for pre-tagged roles, and that's because this is a PDF and not a DocuSign form. So remember, the only reason it would say pre-tagged roles is if something was already formatted with roles to sign. So in this case, I'm going to use room participants. And I'm going to check the boxes next to Wendy and Marty. And I'm going to add selected. I could have also done it manually by doing email address, but I don't know why I would do that. And then again, remember, you can customize down here. So I'll go next. Now, since this is a PDF, this is where you can actually really get into like editing documents. So adding signatures, adding text, right? That's where this would come into play. Okay. So I would want to add text, right? I would drag in the text. I'm just like physically grabbing, and now I'm double clicking in the box, and I would be able to type in Marty Bird and Wendy Bird. I could just click out of it. And then I can click it again to get these little dragging corners, and I can drag it so that it fits in one line. Now, since I typed this in yellow, this is going to Marty, right? But I don't want on this right side, the required field. I've already typed this for him. So I can click that out, and I can just click read only, meaning that he's just going to see it. And then to add signatures, I have this signature box here. I'm going to drag that. And then again, I can make it smaller to fit in the box. And then I also need to drag over a date signed. Now, when they go to sign, it'll automatically put the date and time as they're signing, but you do have to remember to put that box in. Okay? It doesn't automatically come in with the signature. And then I need to switch over to Wendy because she needs to sign this. So I would drag over her signature, and I would drag over her date signed. A couple of other items you might want. So there is a note. So if you wanted just to add a note to your client, you could add that in. There is along this left side, if you move down to this pencil markup tools icon, that's where the line is. So in the event that you are needing to strike something out, you would click and drag a line in, and then you could make the line as long as you needed it to be. And then back over at the top, the standard fields, you can drag your initials whenever you make changes. I have noticed from the classes that I've taken that people really just hang out in the standards fields and then go down to the markup just to get that line, but they don't really need anything else. But you may just want to, in your own time, explore these different options. At the end of May, Scott Leroy is doing a Docusign 201 class, and so I'll watch that and share any next level varsity tricks that I learn. But so that's how you would actually add in any signatures or anything. And so I obviously did not format this in the perfect way because I'm just kind of playing at this point. But is anyone curious about this screen before I move on? Okay. All right, so I could send it whenever I'm ready. And it's going to go back into that envelope stage. So I see that I have 2 envelopes and they're all waiting for signature. If I go back to my documents, I can see all of my documents there. And whenever your documents get signed, these little icons here are going to change to green check marks. So again, so you can visually look and see the status of all of your documents. If you wanted to send more than one document at a time, you can hover over the document, click it, and then still click another one. And then you would press the Docusign form, and that'll put both of those forms in the same envelope. So if you wanted to do that, that is also an option. So I'm going to actually switch back to Command now to show how you would add documents into Command for compliance. So once everything's signed, you would come back to your opportunity in Command. And at this point, you have two options. So at this point, I have two documents I'm ready to submit. I have the agency disclosure and I have the team disclosure. So I can, on the top here, press attach multiple files. And then I'm going to choose DocuSign. It's synced up to my DocuSign room. So I'm going to press DocuSign, and then I can go to the agency disclosure, and I'm going to remember that it's the one that says copy. And I can scroll down to the team disclosure, and I have it right here at the top. And then I can attach. I could also go one at a time. So say I also had the consumer guide at this top, I could press this add file here, go to DocuSign, and all of my forms here are, I could just choose whichever one. But if you have multiple documents, I mean, I think it's best to do it the other way because it's a little more efficient, but totally up to you. You can, there are some folders here. So in DocuSign, you can make folders. And then you would be able to filter from the folders. So if you wanted to make, you know, depending on your workflow, if you wanted to in DocuSign make like a consultation under contract and closed folder, you could, and then you could filter just a little bit more. So that's kind of nice. I'm going to cancel this though. And then when you were ready, you would just submit to the Market Center for compliance. And so it's important to remember that once our Market Center .loop expires, we don't have access to your DocuSign, and if you continued with .loop, we don't have access to your .loop. So the only way that the Market Center can see your documents is through Command. So please keep that in mind. And the only way that we can see an opportunity is if it is put into under contract or closed. So that's also important. And that is all I have for you guys. So unless we want to just stay on for general questions, that is all the content that I've prepared. So I appreciate you guys.
Hey, Kayla.
Yeah.
It's Lucy. So I've started a sale in DocLoop, and they're closing on the 28th of May.
Mm-hmm.
I will have all but the settlement statement loaded into Command before closing. So how do I load that? Do I load it as a PDF then from my computer into Command?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Are you saying because it'll be past May 15th?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Anything else, guys?
That was a good question. I think that helped me with the question that I had about, yeah. So that's only one form that she has to put in. It's going to drag everything else from .loop.
Yeah, so
I will already have everything loaded up in the next week or so.
Yeah.
Once we get through inspection next Tuesday and all that. So the only thing that'll be left is the closing statement.
Yeah. You guys will still have access to the loops that you create before the Market Center loses .loop. You just won't, you'll stop being able to create new loops. So that's kind of helpful in the transition.
So we will have access to our loops. We don't have to copy the documents and save them in a subfolder off on our computer.
Well, so, and this is where like Lori, I'm going with like, I would always double check everything with Lori. But she recommends that you should be storing your documents outside of .loop regardless, just
I do.
In the cloud. Yeah. But you will have access to your past. .loop has told us, let me say that you will have access to the loops that you've created before our accounts go away.
Okay.
So we are trusting that will be true, but.
Well, for
see.
Law and taxes and everything, we have to keep them, what, 3-4 years anyway? So you need all these documents.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I would just recommend, guys, if y'all have questions, like go to that study guide, look at the PDFs. They're broken down step by step with screenshots. That's super helpful. The videos here. If you're interested in the templates, there's a video in there, and then there's also just some other tips at the bottom of that study guide. And then at the end of the day, like always feel free to reach out to someone on leadership with questions. We're all kind of learning it together. And so every time someone asks me a question, I get a little smarter at Docusign. So keep them coming.
And Kayla, I apologize, but I had to take a call when you first started. Where did you get the study guide from? The MyKW?
I've emailed it out to you guys. And I've
I
also,
have that. I
yeah,
have it.
yeah.
I just thought you went into that screen and got a new one or something somewhere.
No, it's just the same one. And it's just a Google Doc so that it can, like, I can continue to update it. So
Okay.
when I learn new things, I add them to it. So
Great. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. All right, guys. Well, if you need anything, let me know and have a great day.
Thank you.